What's up, everyone? I'm Gunner McCormick, or here in the KSPB radio station, I go by DJ RMac. Joining me today is my brother Gunner McCormick, who is an alumni of the KSPB station. And when he was there, he went by DJ GMac, so you can kind of see how I got my name. I did copy it a little bit. I don't know if you're annoyed at that or happy about it.
No, I take that as a sign of great respect.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you were one of the reasons I started radio, so there you go. So today I'm just gonna quickly talk to you about or ask you about your post life from the KSB station and how COVID has affected your years, as you were really right in the middle of it, from like your transition from high school to college. Maybe if you want to talk a little bit about that, about how like your senior year, how that began, and like maybe your thoughts on just, did you think that it was actually going to affect you as much as it did, and how did it affect you?
Yeah, so no, I really didn't. I remember in like January of my senior year, after I was done with my college apps, like occasionally seeing on the news about this new virus in China, and like I thought it was going to play out similar to kind of the Ebola virus, because I remember hearing about the Ebola virus on the news a lot, and like people were hyping it up, but it really never affected like any of our lives in any meaningful way. So I just kind of brushed it to the side. And then I remember over our spring break in like late February, early March, the news started to get more and more serious. And then they talked about more and more cases in the United States. And then I'm like, okay, maybe this could be something more serious. But even at that point, I never really foresaw it being like a big 2-year thing that would significantly affect everybody's life. And then I remember we were back for 1 week after spring break, and the whole school felt different. I remember they had all of like the fruits, like all the apples in the dining hall were individually wrapped in like plastic wrap, and like it was just a very weird atmosphere. But even so, like I just thought it was kind of like a temporary safety measure. I wasn't really sure. And then I remember on that Friday, sometime during the last period of class, we got a school-wide email saying that we were going to be sent online indefinitely, and it shocked pretty much everybody. And especially for like a senior student, you have a lot of friends who you knew that you were going to have to say goodbye to at some point. That was inevitable, but you thought that you'd have like a few more months, and you thought that when you would be able to say goodbye, and that you would be able to say goodbye on your own terms, which was not really the case that we were faced with. A bunch of the students just packed up as quick as they could, and they left that Saturday or left that Sunday. So it really caused, like, I had to say goodbye to a bunch of people really quick. But even at that point, I wasn't quite sure. I thought, okay, like, is this going to be a month? Is there a chance that we all come back? Like, I didn't really know. But yeah, so it pretty much ended up with me having to say goodbye to a bunch of people early. I never really got my graduation, and I never really got my senior spring, which was frustrating because first 3.5 years of high school, you're working really, really hard, especially in like your junior year and the first half of your senior year with college applications. And the senior spring is kind of the reward. You get to kind of loosen up and have a little bit more fun, and really the pressure that you need to get all A's or need to do super well is off you. So that's what I was looking forward to, is like most high schoolers look forward to. And I never really got to have that. So then, yeah, I remember it was all online. I mean, I had a hard time focusing online, and my grades weren't super well, but honestly, it was my senior spring. So my grades probably wouldn't have been super good anyways. But then going into my first year of college, we were living in the dorms. But
excuse me, could you just quickly tell the listeners where you went to college?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I went to a school called Washington University in St. Louis. That's the full name, because they don't want it to be confused with like Washington State or Washington D.C. But yeah, it's named after George Washington, and it's in St. Louis, Missouri.
And then, so I remember you graduated online and then you quickly went into the dorms in St. Louis. And what were classes like there? Was it because it's still like months later, but it's still right in the middle of COVID, right? It's fully kind of commenced. How was school like in St. Louis?
Yeah, I'd say it was terrible. And I don't really think that's necessarily a bad reflection on the school that I went to, just more on the environment that COVID created. But I mean, it was all, at least at my school, it was all single rooms, which sounds good. I mean, you're in a single room right now. I would have loved to be in a single room my junior and senior year of high school. But I think when you're a freshman at a new school, a single room's not really the best, and you want to be you want to be able to socialize more. And additionally, about half of my classes were online, but even the classes that were in person were kind of weird because the way they did it is they had the larger lecture classes online, and then they had the smaller classes that might only have 20 people. They had them in person, but they had them in the larger classrooms where they would normally do the lectures. So you were maybe 20 people really spread out, had masks on. It was a super weird learning environment, and just felt kind of sad. And like in St. Louis, it gets really cold in the winter. And I remember uh because there's a big surge of COVID cases in the winter, they closed down the dining hall for indoor dining. You couldn't eat in the dining hall. You had to get your food and grab and go, which wasn't that big of a deal in the fall. A bunch of students would sit outside on the lawn, so on. But in the winter, nobody's going to be sitting outside eating in the St. Louis winter. You can't eat in the dining hall. So for me, it was mostly just grab my food and then go back to my room and watch Netflix. Sometimes I would hang out with my friend in the common room and we'd listen to music and talk about stuff. But yeah, like it was like a super kind of sad and depressing freshman year for me. And then yeah, now I'm taking a gap year. I was actually just checking Washington University. They just got rid of their mask mandate for the rest of the year, so now it's finally done indoors and outdoors. So hopefully, if I do go back there next fall, it'll be a more it should be completely back to normal, and I should have a more normal college experience.
So you kind of brought into one of my next questions was just about like what are you doing now? You said you're taking a gap year, just taking a break from like I wouldn't say because you're still at college, but like it's just not it's not the same situation that you were before with like the whole gloominess of being in a single dorm, not like being able to like socialize with people because going to a new school, like Stevenson, it's a small school, but like it's still when you're a new kid there, it's hard to meet others. But so I couldn't imagine like going to a new state all across the world, not knowing anyone, and then like them limiting the ways that you can socialize. That must have been not fun at all. I mean, that must have been really unfortunate.
Yeah, it totally was. And on top of that, I remember my mom, our mom, would always say, "Oh, honey, like you got to join some clubs, blah blah blah." And I was telling her, "Mom, all of the clubs are online. Like the last thing I want to do after sitting through two lectures on my computer is just go hop on and do some virtual club on Zoom." So yeah,
Yeah.
it was not a really good year. I think the one saving grace was the fact that, I was born in St. Louis. My dad's lived in St. Louis for most of his life, so
Our
we have
dad.
cousins, grandparents there. So I hung out with my cousins a lot. I hung out with my uncle a ton because he lived a few blocks from school. I'd always go to his house and play board games. I'd hang out with my grandparents, and that was kind of a nice relief from all of the masks and the COVID and stress, just to be able to go out and hang out with family and just kind of forget about it for like a little bit and have fun.
So did this whole experience discourage you at all from returning to college? Like besides, I know you're taking this year and that's kind of why, but like after that, like next fall.
No, it never really discouraged me. It well, maybe it made me a little less excited to return to college, but I always kind of wanted to go to college, and I've always kind of seen that as as part of my path in life. So I never really questioned, like, will I go to college somewhere? It did make me potentially reevaluate maybe where I go to college. So I'm looking at a few schools other than Washington University also, all of which have different schedules, meaning that they might have a trimester system where you have 3 trimesters and you take 3 classes in each
Mm.
trimester, or there's one of them that actually has 9 terms. Each term is 3.5 weeks long, and you take 1 class for each term.
Mm.
So it's ways that it's still the same amount of work. It's more intensive, but it's also less. You don't have to like organize and plan out, and you're not going to have a scenario where you have 3 essays or 3 tests due
Yeah, yeah,
on
yeah.
one day. So I'm kind of looking at that, but no, like I definitely fully intend to go back to college.
Well, that's great to hear. Well, speaking of college, and tying that into KSPB, do you have plans to do anything involving radio in college?
Yeah, I definitely do. Yeah, I Washington University has a radio station. They have like, shows involving music. They have broadcasts of sports games. And I definitely do look forward to doing radio broadcasts in college for sure. I didn't do any my freshman year, mostly because I just felt like my grades were really bad, and I didn't really feel like I should add another aspect that would take up my time on top of that. That didn't really seem like a smart move to me, but I fully intend to do it. And what I'm actually excited about is my 2 favorite sports, baseball and football. I was playing both of those in high school, so I never did broadcast for that. I did broadcast for basketball, soccer, and water polo.
Yep.
But yeah, so actually, I'm super excited to do sports broadcasting for football and baseball.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, myself, I'm on the same note as you because I play football and baseball in high school right now. So I've only ever broadcast basketball, even though that's not my passion at all. So that will be interesting to be able to actually broadcast something that you're super passionate about and have immense knowledge about, because I know you love football, but baseball you really follow in depth. So that'll be really
Mhm.
cool.
Yes.
Um, what like are there other ways, like besides from just like creating like a passion for you in radio, that like KSBB has affected your life post being a part of it?
Yeah, I do think so. I think the main thing would be in terms of public speaking, or not necessarily public speaking, but being able to speak for a long amount of time without pausing or stopping. And then also there's a live aspect, meaning that when you're in the studio, I mean, you can always call up, the manager or somebody to get help if something goes really wrong, but you're kind of in the studio by yourself or with your friend. And like, if you do call somebody up, it's gonna be 10 minutes till they get there. So, I mean, stuff is gonna inevitably go wrong. Oh, like something will, and you have to be able to kind of stay calm under pressure and fix it. And yeah, like there's been instances where I've had trouble getting the show on air, or maybe I'm having trouble playing a music source, or just something doesn't work as planned. And like because it's live, like you have to be able to adapt quickly and think on your feet, and most importantly stay calm, because if you start to get panicked, then your thinking is not going to be very clear. And then yeah, so I think that's probably the biggest thing. And then also I think I enjoy doing my shows with Ethan White, and I think that was a good bonding thing for us. And then yeah, like I met or hung out with kids in radio who I might not necessarily have uh, hung out with otherwise. So those are kind of the main things.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Just being able to, there's always a level, you are just talking and you're playing music, but there is a level of pressure behind it for sure. And when you take radio long enough, I feel like you really are able to deal with it. And that's helps in so many other scenarios, whether it's as small as taking a test or something much larger. It definitely does create a very positive impact. Finally, before we end this interview, so we talked about plans for near future, like college. Do you have any plans for the like far future, like past college on your mind at all, or are you
Yeah.
just living day by day?
No, I still think that as far as a career, I'm really unsure, but I do definitely want to go to law school after college. I think mainly because I'm interested in law. I've had some experience interning with lawyers in the past, but also because I think that, I mean, I'm gonna graduate college when I'm 22, and that's kind of that's still a pretty young age for you to be able to figure out what career you want to pursue for the rest of your life. And the last thing I want to do is pick something that it turns out I don't actually like and then get kind of stuck in that. So I think going to law school after college will give me additional time. And then by the time I'm done with that, I'll have a clear idea. So maybe I will be a lawyer, but maybe not. But I think regardless of if you are a lawyer or something else, I think having a law degree and just having an understanding of how law works can help in a lot more fields than just being a lawyer specifically.
Definitely. Well, thank you for participating in this interview. Once again,
Yeah,
I'm Ryder McCormick from the KSPB station. I was here with my brother, Gunner, and I think that's it. Thanks for coming.
awesome.